Welcome to today's First Chesapeake Chat session. I'm Emma Hollencheck, a First Chesapeake alumna, and I'm here to introduce the First Chesapeake Chat sponsored by Newport News Shipbuilding. I would like to thank this session's sponsors, Newport News Shipbuilding, for making this chat possible. Just some housekeeping. We will let the speaker present and then open up for discussion questions later on if there is time, but feel free to put questions in the comments throughout the chat and we will try to get to them all. The session today is Cool Jobs, STEM, More Than Engineering, presented by alumna Kristen Chong from Analog Devices Space Products. And I will now pass it over to Kristen to introduce herself.
Hi guys, thanks for inviting me to come join in. I'll go ahead and kind of share my presentation real quick. So I've got my introduction in here. Alrighty. So like Emma said, my name is Kristen Chong. I'm currently a marketing manager for power management and precision products for space applications at Analog Devices. I've been working at ADI for about 5 years now, and I guess I kind of want to take some time today to really talk about kind of the unique path that I wound up taking from when I was kind of first involved in FTC myself all the way to today, and kind of how STEM turned out to be more than what I thought it was kind of at first. So like I said, I'm an FTC alumna, class of 2010. I went and got my bachelor's in electrical engineering at UT Dallas. And I'm currently a professional MBA student in NC State as well, projected to kind of finish up in a couple of years. I'm marketing manager for space grade products with a focus on battery management, power management, and precision linear type components. So kind of silicon ICs. I've been a first volunteer since 2014, and then a referee since 2016, and a mentor also since 2016, mentoring 2 different teams, 2655, the Flying Platypi, as well as Team 900 Zebracorns. A couple of other fun hobbies, fun facts about me is, my free time, if I'm not doing robots or work, I'm usually either working on cosplay costuming projects, particularly if they involve kind of big, either electrical or mechanical builds. Woodworking we kind of just picked up, and then driving the back roads in my convertible Mini. So kind of a wide range of stuff. As far as Analog Devices is concerned, we're a semiconductor company that focuses on delivering kind of a full set of solutions for a given problem. So that's anything from sensing capabilities, measurement and signal conditioning to make sure that the signals that we're measuring with those sensor capabilities are kind of the best integrity. Wireless and wired communications, as well as power management and kind of intelligent algorithms to kind of digest and interpret the data that our parts kind of generate for our customers. So what do I do as a marketing manager? It's kind of there are a wide range of things that I actually do for my day-to-day job, primarily of which is talking to customers to really get a pulse on what the market actually needs. So that's talking to people, really kind of asking the thought-provoking questions and trying to figure out what is the solution that they need that they don't necessarily know that they need yet. Or maybe they do know what they need, and they can tell me exactly what it is. And then I take that information and go back to the engineering development team and kind of define what projects do we actually want to go work on, what products do we want to go release and qualify for space use, and why are those kind of the best ones for us to go after. On top of that, I kind of manage and maintain a lot of the customer-facing documentation, whether it be flyers, kind of either brochures or other kind of informational stuff, and even advertisements to an extent in different kind of industry magazines and whatnot, just to kind of help shape ADI's brand as a space component provider. Aside from that, I have kind of a slate of accounts that I'm actually responsible for in terms of kind of growing those, growing our sales with those particular customers, and making sure that I'm kind of their advocate for kind of what needs do they have, and making sure that we're meeting what they need. Probably the most fun part of my job is actually in something that we really haven't gotten to done a lot of this year because of COVID, but really attending trade shows to network with new and existing customers and really kind of show off what have we developed in the last year, and meeting different people. And this really allows us to kind of network with customers that maybe we don't have initial connections with, or just kind of meet new people. Maybe there's a, change in management at a particular customer. We typically find that kind of stuff out, and really just meeting people. And again, it goes back to talking to people and getting a pulse on what people actually need to have a successful mission. And then finally, visiting customers either virtually or actually going to on-site visits and presenting things like thought leadership, lunch and learn kind of events where we're presenting either trends that we're seeing in the space market that we think customers should be aware of, or educating them about new products that we're releasing. So there's kind of a wide range of different activities, but I think the coolest part is getting to nerd out over all of the different rocket launches and looking at kind of things like recently with the Mars Perseverance rover launch. There are actually products on that rover that I helped work on when I was still in the engineering team. So that's kind of the coolest part, in my opinion, is knowing that anything that I'm working on is eventually going to be orbiting above head and kind of really revolutionizing life down here on Earth. So how did I get here? Back in 2005, 2006, when I was kind of in in middle school, my dream job was to go design airplanes and work in the Scuckworth division at Lockheed Martin. That was like specifically what I wanted to do. But then kind of 2008 and 2010 came along and the aviation job market looked pretty bleak. And so I decided, eventually maybe I'll just generalize and kind of pick something specific or pick something that I can do a variety of different things. And then if I happen to be able to get into aviation, great. If not, that's cool too. I still have a job. So I eventually decided on electrical engineering after a couple of kind of flip-flops back and forth, and eventually graduated in 2015 and started a job here at ADI in the space team, working as a product and test engineer. And so my job there was really to kind of almost project management in a way, where I was kind of taking products and really guiding them through the product qualification process, designing tests to make sure that anything that we ship out the door is going to survive, 15, 20 years or however long it needs to last once it actually gets up in space, because repairing a space satellite is not exactly as easy as let me go send a repair rover up and go fix the thing. Although that's starting to become a thing these days, so maybe that will change. But eventually, around kind of late 2018, early 2019, I got kind of bored of just developing products, and it was kind of the same process over and over and over. And I was like, I want to solve different problems every day, not necessarily the same type of problems, if that makes sense. I kind of got bored and said, well, let me go take on applications engineering, which is a little bit more of a customer-facing role, where I was helping customers that maybe run into technical issues and trying to implement a product that we sell. Maybe they have a question about, they exposed the part to some condition and they want to make sure that they didn't damage the part, when they're doing their testing and assembling their subsystems, and kind of things like that, helping customers pick which product of ones that we already have released will be the best for what they're trying to do. And then I like talking to customers so much, and I'm not, the typical engineer that wants to be left alone in my cube and kind of let me do my work. I eventually transitioned fully into the marketing role that I'm in now, which is kind of a fully customer-facing, market research-driven type of job. So kind of a long roundabout way to get into aviation and space and things that fly, but we eventually kind of got there. But kind of a question that to kind of get to, going back over how I got here, when most people think of STEM, you think of things like engineering, being a scientist, being a researcher, things like that. It's science, technology, engineering, and math. So those are kind of the first. Engineer is usually the first thing that pops to most people's heads. And those are all kind of great options, but there's more to it than just those kind of jobs. You can also look at being kind of somewhat in management, where you're looking at being a project manager or a lab manager, research director, where you have to have knowledge the same kind of knowledge and skill set that you need for, say, engineering or being a scientist and whatnot. But you also have to understand what it's like to kind of run a team, and we'll kind of go over this a little bit later, and why kind of first, in my opinion, really prepares you for these kinds of leadership roles, where the technical knowledge is absolutely necessary, or otherwise you have a hard time running a team. But those people aspects, those people and soft skills are just as important. Maybe no one really thinks of any of the business type things, but things like finance and accounting, marketing, or supply chain management. Believe it or not, there is a ton of predictive, statistical analysis that goes into the roles in kind of finance and accounting. People will put together models of, what kind of revenue can I expect over the next 5 years based on all of these different inputs, or what kind of performance can I expect out of a given, stock on the stock market. When it comes to marketing, it's things like kind of I described. I have to be able to understand what customers are trying to accomplish, which requires the engineering degree, in order to then turn around and take a look at what do we have at our disposal that we can then bring into space that solves that problem the best. Or maybe you kind of, more visionary thinking, general manager, vice president, CEO. A lot of these management type positions, while they don't seem like STEM at first, especially if you're working for kind of a technology company, if you don't have that technological background and kind of base understanding, it's really difficult to do the job effectively. Is something that I've kind of found just in the years that I've been working at ADI, and as I've made my own career transitions. Looking at management is something that I only recently kind of discovered as, is equally STEM-based as any, engineering role or things like that. In fact, they're almost more important, and it's so difficult to find people that have both the people skills and the technical skills to be able to fill roles like this. So how is business or management, quote unquote, STEM? We've kind of gone into this a little bit, but you have to be able to understand the jobs of either the customers that you're working with, if you're kind of in a marketing or customer facing role or sales, or the jobs that your employees are working on. So understanding what challenges do they go through on a daily basis. Your job in kind of a business management type position is to identify problems that your direct reports and employees are running into, and figuring out how to move those roadblocks out of the way so that they can then go do the best job that they can. And that's kind of really the bulk of what management tends to kind of turn into. You also have to understand the challenges, kind of like I said, the challenges that they run into, so that you can move those roadblocks out of the way, or if it's not possible to move them out of the way, give them tools that make it easier to deal with those roadblocks, and kind of climb over them. You also have to be able to recognize what is and isn't a reasonable expectation. If I didn't have the engineering background and I go and talk to a customer and they say, we want this super fancy whiz bang widget that does X, Y, and Z, and I turn around and ask the engineering team to make a whiz bang fancy widget that does X, Y, and Z, and I don't know what's involved in doing that, I might be promising the customer or trying to get involved in something that's just completely impossible to do in one way or another. And so being able to recognize what is possible and what is not, and being able to kind of reconcile everything together is, something that you really only get if you do have that technological background or do have experience in doing that development yourself, or at least exposure to what it's like. And then you have to be able to take all of that information and make intelligent decisions about either the business or how you use the resources at your disposal. So say I have, 10 different products that I want to get out to the market, but I only have enough resources to tackle, 4 or 5. I have to then sit down and figure out which ones are the most efficient use of resource versus which ones have the biggest kind of interest in the market, and reconcile all of those things. So it's kind of a very complex position to be in, particularly if you're in these business and management type roles in a technology company or Silicon Valley, where kind of you have to have all kind of, both things together. And so I've kind of touched on this already, but really what I want to drive home is that from my personal experience, both as a mentor, as a student, first really uniquely prepares you for being able to do all of those things. You're learning how to problem solve, you're learning how to work to a deadline, but you're also learning how to manage the resources that you have. Granted, bag day is not a thing anymore, but you still have a limited amount of time to finish, and you have a limited number of people to accomplish a certain number of things. So if I have a team that's 200 people strong, there are a lot more things I can go accomplish because I have more resources. Whereas if I have a team of 20, there's a lot less that I can do, but I can still make a huge impact if I manage that properly. And first of all of the programs that I've ever been involved in, probably I think does the best job of preparing you for that, regardless whether you're in a leadership position on your team or not. You're still working with a team, and those people skills are kind of becoming more and more and more scarce these days. And I can tell you kind of from firsthand experience that kind of people skills is becoming more and almost more important than the technical knowledge, because some technical knowledge can be taught, but leadership cannot. And well, it can, but it can't. You only learn leadership through exposure and experience. You can't really learn it in a classroom. And FIRST is not a classroom. So, this was something that I initially struggled with, for a few years. I had kind of boxed myself into this corner of wanting to kind of do STEM and things like that and be inspirational that way. And it wasn't until kind of recently that I really opened up my viewpoint to be able to recognize that all of these other kind of jobs that some people kind of tend to brush off as that's not STEM or that's not technically challenging or whatnot, it really, it's really a lot more than just, going to be an engineer. Even if you're doing marketing and doing like, advertisement design, all of these things really, you really do need both. And so that's kind of everything that I had. And then I guess if we have questions in the chat, we can go ahead and kind of address those.
I know there's a little bit of a lag on the chat, so I don't see any right now, but I first wanted to say go Pack. I am also at NC State, but I'm doing my undergraduate right now, so very excited to hear that. You're a fellow member of the Wolf Pack.
Woohoo!
I guess, wow, I thank you for everything you said there. That was something that you're absolutely right. Not a lot of people treat those jobs like they are STEM professions, even though they require almost more skill in both STEM and the people. And that's definitely something that I've seen in my first experience, is that, FIRST will prepare you to be able to both talk to people and understand the technical side behind it. And I feel, if you choose to take FIRST in that way and do everything you can in all the different areas of FIRST, you'll come out with that skill set. And that's one of the things that not everyone knows when they hear about FIRST, is they hear it's a robotics competition, and like I feel like everyone should be doing more on it's more than robots, and it's more than tech, like those hands-on skills, like you said, the soft skills are so
right.
important as well.
Right, and a lot of people, when they hear more than robots, they immediately default to all the outreach, which is certainly kind of, that is, important, but it's also an avenue for developing a lot of those skills. And, like you said, everyone hears first and they think, robotics program and building stuff. And what I always tell, in fact, if I'm looking for, other people that want to be mentors, I often tell people the mentors get just as much out of mentoring the team as the students get out of working with us. Because working with the first robotics team was really what kind of showed me that was, that was part of the whole bigger picture, right?
Yeah. Awesome. Is there anything you wish you would have known while you were still in first that you think could have helped you better? I don't even know, like learn from your experiences in first so that you would know sooner, or what you wanted to do for your job, or I'm not sure if
I wish I would have found it faster. So the school that I did first at, kind of my year was the last year that we had kind of a functioning team, and the students that came before me really left behind like this really strong legacy, and I'm like kind of sad that I didn't find it sooner, because I had so much fun and learned so much in the program. But certainly I wish, like you said, I wish there had been as much emphasis then as there has been nowadays on how it's about more than just building the robot. It's the outreach, it's the leadership skills, it's the, people talking to people. It's all of those things. And kind of, I wish that had been even more of an emphasis back then than it is, than it was, more like it is now. But as far as first is concerned, that's kind of what I would tell, what I would tell high school me.
There's a question in the chat. Do you volunteer at events? What's your favorite part of events? And do you have a favorite event that you've been to so far for first?
So I will tackle favorite event first because it kind of feeds into everything else. But my favorite event is actually not championship, even though being a supplier means that I get kind of all of the VIP access stuff. Champs is cool, but WV Rocks is cooler, in my opinion, because just the environment that is created with everyone kind of the 26-hour long event, marathon thing, and people staying up all hours of the night. And it's just that event is so fun, and there's nothing like it. I always tell people that if there's an event that they should volunteer at and they're really crazy about FIRST robotics, that's one that, you really can't miss. As far as volunteering at other events, I do volunteer at events a lot. I've volunteered in North Carolina, and I volunteer a lot in Texas, where I'm originally from. So I, at one point was doing pretty much every single event that North Carolina ran. Being a referee, and I get a lot out of watching, I get a lot out of watching Alims or watching kind of the playoffs, where you see the partnerships that start forming between the alliances and the teams on those alliances, watching them band together when the robot breaks at the very last minute and you're scrambling to just fix everything and get the robot out on the field before the buzzer goes off. Watching how everyone snaps into action is probably my favorite part of events. And that's from both a mentor perspective and a volunteer perspective. I also like the dancing because I have way more energy than can fit in this tiny, short, 4'11" person of me. So I get a lot out of all of the events. So I just kind of, I love them. I love the energy in general.
Awesome. Do you have a favorite dance song? Like Cotton Eye Joe, Cha-Cha Slide?
That's a hard one. Cotton Eye Joe's great just because being from Texas, and that one I have way too much fun with, but it is also ultra super tiring, and I'm just like at the end of the dance every single time. But I think besides that one, the Cupid Shuffle, that one I get a lot of that one too.
Awesome. Oh, do you have any neat sneak peek analog devices that you are allowed to show us or let us in on? Any? information on?
Not really. What I can do is kind of point in the direction of, the stuff that we do for first choice in the kit of parts, which is, you can find a lot of information on that if you go to analog.com/first. We have a whole landing page there that kind of will take you to some of the wiki guides for the different inertial measurement units and gyros that we supply to the kit of parts via first choice.
Awesome.
There's a lot of, the documentation is getting better every year. And, the IMUs that we put into the kit of parts are of the grade that goes into, a lot of there's a wide variety of different, products that it goes into. And it's really cool to see. And robotics is actually one of the end applications, big giant robotic arms and industrial assembly things. It's the same kind of, it's more or less the same products, or like drones and things like that. So definitely check out analog.com/first. We've got information about all of the different parts that we do for First Robotics.
Awesome. If there is one piece of advice, like just one, that you could give to current first students that are looking, just looking to the future and what they want to do, what would it be?
I would say it's keep an open mind. Don't box yourself into a specific kind of path unless you're really kind of enthusiastic about that path. You don't want to lock yourself into one thing and then find out later down the road that, oh, that's not really what I wanted to do, which is, and that's not a problem either. No, none of us have it figured out what we want to do when we grow up. Even I, still flip-flop every now and then, what does my exact future career path look like from here? It's going to change. So if you don't feel like you know exactly what you want to do now, don't panic, and just kind of, take things as they go, and take time to figure out, what you want to do, and things like that. Figure out what you like doing. There's nothing wrong with not knowing what you want to do. There's nothing wrong with not having a specific career path of, I want to go be the world's best, I don't know, solar cell researcher, or I want to go be the CEO at XYZ company. Keep your options open, is probably the best piece of advice that I could give.
Awesome. All right. Well, I just want to say thank you so much. Thank you again, Kristen Chong, for speaking with us today. And I wanted to, again, thank today's sponsors, Newport News Shipbuilding. We have a short video from them, so please stick around and have a great rest of the day.